Yeah, do we know who added the metric stuff? It kind of looks like, I think I think G had wanted to talk about some of this stuff recently.
I just pinged him on Slack, so hopefully we'll hear back. James, that wasn't you, was it, who added the metrics-related stuff to the agenda?
No, that wasn't me.
Okay, no worries. See if I hear back from G. Chunhung, did you add the gRPC item to the agenda?
I added it like last week, but it's just a small change. I just made.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I was just curious. Well, maybe we could start with the gRPC discussion then.
Sure. I'm just trying. Want to like tell that I made this change, and let me join the Zoom. Okay. Well. Let me also try to let me try to find the patches I have first.
Okay.
Oh wait, okay. EVs. Well, so I made some change to the API that I made some change to the gRPC wrapper in the process, and these are already committed because but I just want to like briefly mention what being made. The first one is So initially, in a previous wrapper interface, we have this one thing called RPC result, which when we make a gRPC call, and it will return a future. It will return a future of RPC result of the response protocol. And if you look at RPC result, it's like it contains a status and the response protocol itself. But however, after I went through some discussion in the gRPC's repo, there's some discussion about whether we should so currently the gRPC runtime only guarantee that if the gRPC status is okay, then the response is a valid protocol. If it's not okay, it may be due to various reasons. If the reason is because of underlying transport is failed, like connection failure, then the response may not be a valid protocol. If the status is not okay because the server returns a non-okay status, then the response may or may not be valid. So to ensure type safety, instead of having this RPC result that have a status with a potentially dangling response protocol, I remove it. Instead, I introduced a call status error and make the call return a future of try of response with specialized error class. So this will ensure us to have type safety. The reason I don't have a future like a specialized, so currently we don't have a specialized failure type for future, and the main reason is because it's hard to chain with that kind of with a specialized type of future. So there's a workaround that we have. We use future of try of something with specialized error. So we can programmatically handle the error and still provide a like asynchronous response. And Benjamin and Benjamin created a ticket for in the future. We potentially only consider how to design future with special field type, but this is another issue. So the first change I made in this wrapper is that I changed the RBC result to a types to future of try for type safety. And the second change I made is previously we to use gRPC. Let me try to find an example. To use gRPC, what we do is like we need to do call with a macro that's try to retrieve the function name of the generated code from Proto-C. But this gRPC name may in the future, if we want to get the gRPC server support, this name I feel this name may we will have a difficulty introducing a new macro that's specialized for gRPC server support. So I rename it to gRPC client method. So we don't have any name conflict on the macro if you want to add server support in the future. And the next thing I made is I do some renaming. Rename a thing called gRPC channel, which is a wrapper of the global gRPC channel class. And I feel it's a little bit inconvenient to have our own wrapper that overrides a global name. And also, I look at how Go wrap around the gRPC channel base. Actually, what they do is they have a client con wrapper class. So I feel connection actually better represent what the channel is. It's easier to understand. So I did renaming and moved it to a client namespace. Yeah, these are the major changes I have in the process gRPC wrapper. So just this interface change to like ensure type safety and make the interface reduce future name conflicts and make it a little bit cleaner. And also made some implementation change to remove some synchronous locking, make it purely asynchronous actor based, but this is not related to interface change at all.
Hey, Chunhung, could you? I'm not terribly familiar with gRPC support in Mesos. Could you clarify for me where these interfaces are exposed and who consumes them?
Yeah, currently these are exposed in the lib process includes it's currently in lib process is exposed in process /gRPC.hp that file and now it's used by CSI clients. This is the only thing we have right now. But the reason I made the change is in the near future we may want to have a gRPC based module, and so that's why I want to first clean up the interface first. Then we can in the future we can have if we introduce new gRPC based module.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah. I stopped my sharing.
Does anybody have any comments, questions on the gRPC changes? Okay, I still have not heard back from G.
I think he might be in a meeting.
Yeah, he might be in another meeting.
Okay, gotcha.
Here, a few minutes ago.
I'm guessing he was probably the one who added the metrics item to the list because none of us did. And Ben, it sounds like you talked to him and he was hoping to chat about that stuff.
Yeah, sorry, the sirens. He was, he talked to me recently about how container metrics are in a separate place, and kind of structured, and that structure probably would need to map to something like tags or something. I think he might have been wanting to, I don't know if he wants to unify it or not, but I think he at least wanted to talk about tags or attributes with the goal being to line it up with whatever is the most popular metrics standard, I guess. I'm not sure.
Like Prometheus?
Maybe I can.
Yeah, I mean, there was some repository he showed me where we're trying to propose, I guess it was Prometheus, I think, as a standard for cloud native, like CNCF. I'm not sure. Maybe James knows more.
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about this. This part of it goes back to the Prometheus metrics patches, which Ben and I talked about last year. So there's a few people that are interested in native Prometheus metrics in Mesos, both around Mesos itself and around containers. And today everyone does that with Mesos Exporter, which is a Mesosphere project. I had some patches to natively publish libprocess level metrics as in Prometheus exposition format. They worked fine, but one of the drawbacks is that container metrics aren't libprocess metrics. They're just an ad hoc JSON. In fact, some of the things that are exposed in I can't remember what the protobuf is called, actually. It's not metrics, it's something different. But some of the things in there aren't really metrics. They're difficult to kind of map to a metrics mindset, which is a little bit wonky. So I've been thinking about this a little bit. I know G was quite strongly in favor of creating some sort of enough abstractions in the libprocess metrics APIs that you would be able to represent all the information you would want to expose in Prometheus. I'm not really convinced that's the right approach. We already have Mesos Exporter. It already has people contributing to it. Maybe a better approach would be to talk to those guys and see what they think about trying to fold that project into the larger Mesos project, so it's more so we're more closely aligned. It seems to me that if we take the Prometheus approach and like bundle it into libprocess, we're probably significantly narrowing the audience of developers who would make contributions to that. So I think there's a little bit of, so that's the area that I think G was intending we put that on, but it's sort of an open discussion area right now, as far as I know.
Yeah, I think that one thing we've run into with the per framework metrics we've been working on recently is the difficulty of providing more nuanced metadata with a metric when all we have is the key to work with. So I can see just strictly from our perspective, designing new metrics, I can see what seems to me good motivation for providing a richer metrics output format in some format, whether it's Prometheus or not. Whether or not that's something that we really want to devote our time to right now, I don't know. And maybe Mesos Exporter is sufficient for the time being. I feel like we could probably get by with what we have now, maybe until V2 or later. If we have trouble I guess I'm just saying if we have trouble finding the resources to implement the kind of metrics format we really want right now, I think we could survive on Mesos Exporter for a while.
I mean, I guess one of the things I think is a question is sort of the larger strategic goal of the project is, do we really want to bundle everything into lit process, or does it make sense to have these, to push off some of the work into, quote, the ecosystem?
Yeah, are you referring to tags, or are you kind of referring to the format and so on? Because with tags, it seemed to me like that was kind of a feature that has been added to a lot of the existing metrics libraries out there, like Coda Hail, which is now Drop Wizard. They have several issues where people have asked for tags. I don't know if they ended up adding them yet, but it looks like they're going to add them. I didn't look at other libraries, but I'm assuming they probably have tags given the presence of them in things like Prometheus and Datadog.
But the reason people are asking for tags is because they
yeah
Prometheus exposition
right
formats, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there's lots of traditional metrics representations have like two-dimensional representations of things. So in SNMP and also Performance Copilot, they have like the notion of two-dimensional tables. And I don't remember what the SNMP terminology is, but in PCP it's called an instance domain. So you have a set of metrics, and and each instance in your instance domain has each of these metrics. That's for representing like two-dimensional data. But tags doesn't really, there's a bit of a mismatch between the model of tags and the model of an instance domain, because an instance domain is 2D and tags is arbitrary D, really.
Yeah, I guess the question is, how do you deal with metadata? Like, do we want to, like, I think what Mesos Exporter does is it queries, I don't know, state or something, and then tacks on the appropriate metadata. Does anyone know?
Yeah, it tacks on some metadata depending. I think for the container one, it because it's manually transforming the JSON, it tacks on the container ID metadata. When it has two separate modes for master and agent, and when it knows it's working in either of those modes, it tacks on specific metadata around the master or agent. So it basically has built-in knowledge or hard-coded knowledge about the semantics of specific metrics in the JSON, and it in some cases will tack on tags based on other API calls that it makes.
Yeah, another thing that came up was like, should this be configurable in some way? Like, for those that don't have tags, should they be able to specify the key structure if they want to change it? Like, if they want to say, I want my framework metrics to include just the framework name because I know that it's unique for me and I can read those and I understand them, we could let them do that. But by default, the project wouldn't pick framework name on its own because it's not unique, right? That's like one thing that came up when we added them was people didn't like the framework ID in there for DCOS, because in DCOS the framework names are unique. And the framework IDs you can't predict ahead of time. So it was deemed difficult to set up dashboards, pre-existing dashboards, because we wouldn't know what the framework IDs would be.
Yeah, we probably have the same issue, and we would know. So we would probably want to do things on framework name. We have cases where frameworks get deleted and then recreated, which will be a new framework, but it'll have the same name. So it'll be the same. It'll be the same service.
Right. Yeah, so stuff like that we're trying to figure out, if we had tags, it would probably have just been one of the tags, the framework name. But if we have a key structure, then I guess it probably has to be configurable.
But then something like Mesos Exporter, it's trivial, straightforward at least, to add code to Mesos Exporter to look up the name look up and cache the name and provide name stuff there. It's
And
way more
use it as a
flexible.
tag there, you mean?
Yeah, Mesos Exporter is doing custom things anyway for Mesos, so it seems
Okay.
like pretty straightforward to crack the name from the JSON metric,
Okay.
extract the ID, and then map it to whatever you want.
All right. I mean, it's useful for me to hear someone who has an opinion on the other side, because everyone seemed to, all the opinions I was hearing about this seem to be that Mesos Exporter was kind of a hack. So it's good to hear someone who thinks otherwise.
I think it is. I feel like it is sort of a hack, but not necessarily a hack in a bad sense. I mean, we can change. I mean, the thing is, we can change Mesos Exporter much faster. You can change and deploy Mesos Exporter probably much faster than you can change and deploy Mesos Agent. I think it's really hard to design, to distill the common essence of tags into a general purpose API. And the audience of people who are going to make changes to this are probably more familiar with being able to make changes to like a Go toolchain than making changes to a C++ application.
Okay.
Would that be hard to use like a third-party metric library in Mesos?
What do you mean?
Like, so now in Libras we have metric, but I feel we probably can just use a third-party like metric library, so we don't need to declare our own counter. We don't need to declare our own gauge.
What would your goal there be?
And with those third-party library, like we don't need to worry about find a library that already have tag support, etc., etc. So.
Yeah, I don't know that stuff's particularly hard to implement, but what's more challenging is things like histograms and so on. Ours is pretty.
Yeah, we don't have that, right?
Ours is pretty simple right now and needs to be enhanced. But otherwise, like metrics are quite straightforward. Like I looked at the Envoy metrics header in their repository. It looked like they had tags as well, which is why I was kind of wondering if we should do tags. But the implementation of these things they're just like atomic counters or variables. The histogram is the more complex part.
Yep.
I don't know what Envoy happens to do, but we would need something in C++, and if I look at like envoys, I don't know what they're including here. They're including some Envoy stuff, so it might not be that easy to pull it out and use it.
I see.
But it does look like they're a particular library that has metric tags. Probably because whatever they use there is at Lyft probably has tags in it, or someone who uses Envoy asked for tags or something like that.
Or everyone that uses it uses Prometheus.
Yeah, I figured. Okay. I'm trying trying to find the CC file tags. Yeah, looks like the tags here are just an array of name and values. Attached to a metric, from what I can tell.
Yeah, it's exactly what tags are in Prometheus model, so makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. If you can find a library tune, that would be potentially interesting. I mean, I think for me, it would be helpful if there was something we could leverage for like histograms and so on.
Mm-hmm.
Ours is pretty basic right now and isn't that great. So that would be nice. But when it comes to the actual like counters and so on, we'd probably need to wrap them to.
Yeah, I know.
For some of them, we'd have to wrap them to be asynchronous.
Yeah, we still need to have keep our own like metric process, I guess.
If we want to keep pull gauges, then we'd have to have.
Oh yeah.
We'd probably just leave that one as our own or something. But anyway, let me know if you find something.
Sure.
Seems like other projects like Envoy, they just implemented their own because it's pretty minimal, except for the histogram part.
So another way to do it is just to invert the problem and say, we export Prometheus format. And
yeah,
if you want to consume metrics, you can consume Prometheus format, and people will just live with that, and it'll be fine.
Yeah, I guess the question is what would happen for people who don't have Prometheus and use just a key value system? Do we have like V1 metrics that they can continue to use in the meantime, or?
Yeah, we'd clearly have to keep the existing. We'd have to keep the existing interfaces for everybody who's consuming them now, and just add new stuff to the new way.
Okay, yeah, I feel like that's pretty non-trivial. We'd have to come up with a strategy there. I guess that's part of the agenda items that G put down.
I gotta skip out, but thanks everybody.
All right.
Yeah. See ya.
Thanks,
See ya.
James. Okay. Does anybody have anything else on the metrics front? Any other thoughts? Okay. Well, that's everything from the agenda. Unless anybody has any other items they wanted to bring up today? Anything at all?
Not for now. I probably can bring up something next time.
Okay, cool. Ben, is there anything else you wanted to chat about?
I was just trying to find the implementation in Envoy, but no, I don't think so. I think there's going to be work to do the state serving performance stuff, and we probably want to ask them to talk during this meeting at some point.
I'm thinking that for the tag support, we probably can just add it and make our metrics have two-way to output. Like we can have a switch to say we want the conventional key value style output that will put the tag as part of the keys. And or we can enable some tag output format, then add then output something just other than key value pairs.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that, Sean?
I'm thinking that if we only add like tag support, we probably another thing a way we can do is we just add tags and in our existing matrix objects. But for each metric, we need to define like two ways to output them. Like one way is a conventional key value way. The other way is like a richer format that contains tags. And the conventional, we just somehow have a convention to put tags into the keys. And then let the user to have some switch to say I want to output the conventional way or output the metric way, the richer format with tags.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess my question would be, if we're going to add tags, is it worth it to just adhere to some standard format rather than inventing our own?
Oh, yeah.
I don't. If it's not too difficult for us to accommodate Prometheus, maybe it would be worth doing that.
Or we can just have the new format at all, and then for like backward compatibility, we can have like a converter to convert back to pure key value format.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, let's just see if G wants to talk about this again next time, or
yeah, maybe you need to also. Yeah, I also want to hear his opinion on this.
I think what I'm trying to understand is like, what's the immediate motivation or reason to prioritize this, given all the other stuff going on?
Yeah, right. My intuition is that we have bigger fish to fry at the moment, so we could probably sit on the back burner unless we have some other motivation. Well, anything else anybody wants to discuss? No?
Not here.
Okay, cool. Well, that's everything for this time. Thanks for joining, everybody. Nice to see you. And next meeting will be in 2 weeks. I'll see you all then.
Thank you.
See you.
Thanks, guys.
So yeah.